Welcome to another episode of Mexican in the Kitchen. Today I have a bit of a different video. I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't do a lot of grilling. That's mainly because I live in Finland and I live in an apartment, so I don't have a grill very close or very nearby. But now I'm in Mexico. This is my mom's kitchen. As you can see, it's a different one, gas stove, which is beautiful. And this time, my brother is going to help me make some sausages. The sausages is something he makes for his business. I'm going to leave his social networks here for the business and his personal one in case you want to follow. He's a chef. He does really beautiful things, and he's going to show me how he does the sausages and the smoking of these sausages for his business. He's going to share some tips, some tricks. You might want to stick around, just see how he does it. I thought it was a very interesting experience. I have never made sausages before, and this was quite nice. So I'm going to show you. You're gonna see a lot of his hands there in the video. He really knows what he's doing. He's been doing this for a while now. I hope you like it. Press like, subscribe, activate the bell, all those kind of things, and see you in the next one. First thing we have to do is to get the grill going. For that we're using coal, and I don't know if you can tell here in the center, we are using a fire starter. There's many ways to do this. I personally usually use just a napkin with some oil, vegetable oil, but my brother uses this sawdust, so he buys a bunch of it and then he just mixes it with a bit of oil, puts it in the center and just starts the fire. This will keep it going for a while and it will be long enough for your coal to get lit. Once this starter gets burning, we don't really have much to do. We just have to wait for it, leave the coals there for a while, and then we can continue. While we are waiting for the coal to get ready, we're setting this water container on the other half of the grill. We are adding this water so we have some moisture in there. On top of this water, we are placing whatever we are smoking, and then on the other side we will burn the coal and also our wood. We used to have an avocado tree at my mom's place, and at some point we had to cut it down because it started to get too big, the roots were a problem, but we have a bunch of this avocado wood. When my brother started experimenting with this grilling and smoking, he started using this wood because we had a bunch of it, and he realized it gives a really nice flavor, so that's the kind of wood we are using for this video. Of course, you can use whatever kind of wood you prefer. While we prepare the sausages, we are throwing in this pork belly. This is something he's testing for his business. He added some salt, some sugar, his secret rub, and some maple syrup. We're closing our grill and we want to keep it between 80 and 100 Celsius. It's about 176 to 212 Fahrenheit. When smoking with one of these, just using coal and wood, of course you have to keep an eye, open your grill from time to time, make sure there's enough coal, there's enough wood, and everything's burning evenly. Now we can start with our sausage, and for that we are going to need some casings. For that, there's two options. We can have natural and synthetic. In this case, we are using natural ones. Natural casings are basically intestines. That's what has been used for centuries, and that's what we're using today. I don't know where you can get these depending on where you live. In Mexico, we get it from the butcher. One way of cleaning this is making a saline solution and soaking the whole intestine in there for about 8 to 10 hours, changing the solution maybe 3 or 4 times. This solution would usually be 200 grams of salt per liter of water. As you can tell, this is dropping quite a lot of salt. That's how we get it. And in this case, these intestines are already clean, but it never hurts to give them a rinse again. So we're going to do that a few times. These casings are quite resistant, but at the same time, they're kind of fragile. You have to be careful. In this case, they come with a nut, and you have to be careful when undoing that. They are quite resistant, but if you make some kind of tear, then it's easy that they continue tearing. So just be careful while doing this. These casings were quite long, so we just cut a piece we're gonna use. After that, we're starting to rinse it just from the outside. We're rinsing, as you can see, all the salt it had. Once we have rinsed the intestines from the outside, then we can continue from the inside. And for this, if you ever had a water balloon fight, this will be quite familiar. We just have to grab the tip and then throw some water in there. You have to help with your fingers, try to open the starting point and just let the gravity do its work. As you can see, water is going through. Just grab it firmly, press it with your fingers, and just make the water go past. Make sure there's no knots in between like this one we found. But the process is quite simple. Repeat this 3-4 times until the water is really clear. In our case, by the second or third try, the water was quite clear, but still we gave it a couple more rinses just to be safe. Since we still have to prepare the meat for our sausages and we're not using these right away, we are going to take the starting point just so we don't lose it. We're going to set it in a container and add some water. This way we can keep it hydrated and ready to use whenever we need it. For our sausages, we're going to need some onion. In this case, for every kilo of meat and fat that you use, you are going to use 300 grams of onion. We're going to start by chopping these onions as finely as we can. You might be wondering, why are we chopping these so finely, or why do we care if we're going to throw it into the meat grinder? But the reason is, the more finely you chop these, the nicer it will mix when you throw it with the meat into the grinder. Once we are done with the onion, we can set it aside. Once we have all the onion, we are also using a handful of coriander. Personally, I love coriander. I think it gives a beautiful flavor to these sausages, but I know there's a lot of people who don't like coriander. So in case you're one of those people, you can always switch these for parsley or any other herb of your preference. Just like with the onion, we want to very finely chop the coriander and then set it aside. We can throw it into the same container where we have the onion. Now we're preparing our meat grinder, and of course follow the instructions of whatever meat grinder you are using. In this case, these two pieces are the ending part. These will be in contact, there will be some friction. So just spraying it with some vegetable oil will reduce that friction, will reduce the noise, and it will just make it run smoother. I don't know if you can tell from the video, but the upper part, the pipe where the meat will go through, seems to be kind of frozen, and that's because we had it in the freezer. This helps keeping the meat cold and also prevents it from sticking too much. Some people might just drop them in ice water for a while before starting. In this case, we're using this Rhino machine, but use whatever you have at home. Even a manual one will get the job done. Now we're going to throw our meat in, and in this case we're using pork. What part of the pork you use, completely up to you. The ideal is to use some cut that has 20 to 30% fat. One easy way to do this is just get pork butt, pork shoulder. Those have that percentage of fat, so it's pretty easy to get it in that range. Maybe once you get more experience, you can start playing with it. You can buy some lean cuts and then some fat, just mix it and get it to the percentage you prefer. But I think pork butt, pork shoulder is perfect for beginners. This is the consistency we're getting on the first try, and as you can tell, you can see the fat and the meat. You can, of course, see it's still quite chunky, but we'll repeat the process a few more times and it will get better. It's really important that when you're using this kind of machine, be really careful, don't get your hands or fingers too close. In this case, we were using this attachment just to push the meat, and it's important to be safe because these can be quite dangerous. As I said, once we're done, we're going to give it another go, and we're just going to take the bowl, throw it again up here, and repeat the process. I'm sure you can see this second time you cannot tell fat and meat so easily as before. The texture is a bit better, a bit smoother, not so chunky, and that's exactly what we're going for. After the second time, we're going to add the sausage adapter, and this is going to help us to start stuffing our sausages. Right before we throw the meat into the grinder for the last time and we start stuffing our sausages, we're going to add the coriander and the onion. One of the reasons why we didn't add these since the beginning is because we have coriander, and any green herb you throw in there, if it gets ground a few times, it might start painting the sausages green, and we don't really want that. And we also want the onion and the coriander to still have some texture, still not mix completely and completely disappear into the sausage. This is also the perfect spot for adding our seasoning, and in this case we're going to keep it very simple, just add salt. But if you want to add something else, this is a place where you can play with it. Just add any other kind of spice or herb you want to add. After adding all the ingredients, we can mix. In this case, we're mixing by hand. It's just a very simple mix. It will anyway mix when you throw it into the meat grinder. But of course, we don't want a spot with only onion or only meat. So it's important that you mix it nicely. This is, of course, also a good time for you to taste. It's very important for you to taste when you're cooking, and for that you can just grab a small sphere, throw it into a pan, cook it, and taste how your sausage will taste. Now we can start stuffing our sausage, and for that we're going to take the intestine or the casing we have, and we're going to place it on this attachment. As I said before, these casings might be a bit delicate, so when placing them on here, try not to force them too much, try to be gentle, try to make sure they are able to slide before forcing it. and eventually you'll get the hang of it. It's not super complicated, but it might be tricky at times. At the end, this casing was a bit too long, so we're going to cut it here. We're going to set it at the beginning. You have to leave some space because you still have to tie it at the end. And now we can start stuffing our sausages. As you can see, this is the third time we're adding our meat to the meat grinder. Now it's seasoned, now it has the coriander, the onion, and we can start stuffing the sausages. This process was way easier with two people. One made sure the meat kept coming at a steady pace. The other one was handling the sausages, making sure they are the same size, making sure there's no air bubbles, and making sure they are tied properly. Once we have one big sausage, we're going to start making the smaller ones. For that, we're going to take a segment and we're going to twist to one side. Once we're done with one segment, we are going to give it an extra few spins. And then we're going to continue to the second segment. We're going to try to make them as even sized as possible. And we're going to twist to the opposite direction. Since we did a few extra twists, once we twist in the opposite direction, the sausages will not join. There will be enough twists for them to stay where they were. We will continue and do the whole thing, alternating between twisting left and twisting right. In this case, we reached the end and there was not enough for another sausage, so instead of making a small one and just leaving it there, we're going to pull all the meat out and we're just going to close it and leave it there. Once we're done, we can make a small knot at the end and we'll do the same on both sides. While doing this, try not to leave any air bubble at the end. Now we can go back to our grill and look how beautiful this bacon looks. This was ready after a couple hours. It just smells beautiful, looks beautiful. We tasted later and it was delicious. Right now there's not much to do other than bringing our sausages to the grill. Here we're going to place them in a spiral because that way we maximize the space on the grill. And we're also trying for the sausages not to touch each other. We want to set them quite close to each other, but not to be on top of each other. Here we set the second strip of sausage we make, and we're just going to move them around, try to make them fit on the grill, and then we can close it. As you can see, the wood has consumed completely. We're going to set some more. We're going to add also more coal. We're going to make sure we put the coals on top of the wood for it to start burning right away. Just like we did with the bacon, you have to keep an eye on this, keep adding wood, keep adding coal, keep it on the right temperature. Again, we will keep it between 80 and 100 Celsius, which is 176 to 212 Fahrenheit. Our sausages need to be in here for 2 hours. These have been for about 1 hour 45 minutes. They're almost ready, but we noticed the sausages closer to the fire might be a bit too close to it. You can see they already have the marks from the grill. They look quite nice, but we're going to flip them just so they don't burn from one side. And then we're going to give it the last 15 minutes. This is the end result. These are our sausages after 2 hours. This is the end result after 2 hours. Look at the beautiful tan they have. The casings give a really nice crunchy texture. The inner texture is soft, but not these too soft, ultra-processed kind of sausage you buy from the store. The coriander gives it a beautiful, very particular taste. The smokiness from the avocado wood is just spot on. It's beautiful. After my first time making sausages, I can tell you it's a lot of work, but it's definitely worth the trouble. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. Try it at home, press like, subscribe, activate the bell, all those kind of things, and see you in the next one.